Due to the following special programming, Ed Sullivan will not be seen at this time, but will return next week at its regular time. This is KOLN-TV, Channel 10 in Lincoln, KGIN-TV, Channel 11, Grand Island.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Nebraska Centennial, Nancy Griffin.
It is written, "O come, let us sing to the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come into his presence with thanksgiving. Let us make a joyful noise to him with song and praise." Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Nebraska's own Henry Fonda.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's always good to come home. This special hour of religious fine arts is presented by the Nebraska Council of Churches, a gift from the churches of Nebraska to the people of Nebraska on the occasion of the state's centennial. During the next 60 minutes, you will hear the fine voice of Nebraska's own Joe Feeney. You will hear the words of Mari Sandos, and see the story of the state's religious heritage. And you will hear the glad sounds of great hymns as arranged by Harry Simeon and performed by a chorus and orchestra of Nebraskans. A time for remembering our religious heritage. An hour of gladness. As we said, all the members of the chorus and the orchestra are native Nebraskans, and so are the other participants, with one notable exception. And that exception is the man at the podium, who's not only conducting the chorus and orchestra, but who's arranged or composed the music for this program. He hails from New York, but we're going to fix that up right now. Harry Simeon, come here. You ready?
Ready.
At all times and at all places. You don't have to repeat this. You just have to believe it. You get that?
All right.
At all times and at all places. You got that?
Right.
You will acknowledge that the state of Nebraska is the heart of the nation,
Heart of the nation.
is truly where the West begins,
West begins.
is the agricultural center of the world.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You better believe it.
I believe it. I believe it.
Is the beef state, is the home of the nationally rated Cornhusker football team,
Oh, I knew that.
and has the most cordial and hospitable, the warmest, friendliest, most sincere group of citizens ever put together in one place at one time in the world. You believe that?
I believe that.
Therefore, I am authorized to declare you an honorary citizen of the great state of Nebraska and to inform you that you won't have to pay any taxes while you're here. Well, now that he's one of us, we can brag on Harry a little. He's been associated with the Fred Waring organization for many years. He's He's arranged a lot of church music, put some out in hit records besides. The Little Drummer Boy was one of Harry's most popular records, and one he has going right now is doing well. And he wants to do it for the people of Nebraska. Harry Simeon, the chorus and orchestra, and anyone can move a mountain. I believe it, I believe it. And believe me, it does my heart good to present the next young man on the program. He's from Grand Island, where I was born. He's a featured soloist in the Lawrence Welk television program. Ladies and gentlemen, Nebraska's own Joe Feeney.
come dew and freshness of the morn. I'm alone with thee, forevermore with thee. Oh, in that daylight dawning, share I the glory of I am with thee forevermore, still with thee, still with
Joe will be back again. You know, as musical instruments go, the organ is a fairly new one. A good deal of religious music wasn't written originally for the organ. In fact, some of the finest religious music wasn't necessarily written to be performed in church. Much of it was composed for full orchestra. If you take a close look at an organ console, you'll notice the stops for trumpets, horns, bells, all of the instrumentation of an orchestra. The organ was built to make the sounds of a full orchestra, so that some of the great religious music could be played in church. And what is happening here tonight is a reversal of the process. Harry Simeon has put the orchestra, the brass and percussion, back into the music, hoping to recapture some of the excitement and rich color that these hymns have. For example, this stirring arrangement of an ancient Hebrew melody and the hymn, Men and Children Everywhere. This is old Jules. Jules Ami Sandos, one of the first settlers in the upper Niobrara country of Nebraska. A tough, determined man of the frontier, but with a vision into the future. The story of his life and the times in which he lived has been told by Mari Sandos, his daughter, in one of the best biographical accounts of early Nebraska. And in this biography is a brief episode in which old Jules, a farmer, or as they were known in those days, a granger, old Jules has a run-in with a cowboy. And I'm going to read that section for you now. One afternoon, when old Jules had worked a furious half-hour chopping the sod about his whips of trees and cleaning out the tough weeds, two homesteaders stopped by for their last filing instructions. Glad of the respite, Jules squatted in the shady side of the wagon with them and filed his gleaming hoe. The cowboy, headed west for the Upper Hunter Ranch, reined off towards the loafing settlers. His horse side-jumped at Jules' pile of bleaching buffalo skulls and broke away into a run. The rider jerked the horse to his haunches, bloody froth flying from the spade bit. Back before the settlers, he shifted his heavy colt, tossed a leg around the saddle horn, rolled a cigarette. He'd been up to the tent town of Gordon, about 30 miles away. He's going strong as a sheepman's socks, everything wide open, draw played in the dust of the street. So, Jules said warily, yeah, even had a resident sky pilot organize a church along in May. 75 people scattered around his tent, sitting on the wood pile, wagging tongues, empty whiskey kegs, and the ground making a noise fit to stampede a herd of longhorns third down the Cimarron. But the collection was a mite disappointing. After the praying, the new congregation milled into the nearest saloon to wet their gullets and celebrate the organization of the First Methodist Church west of Valentine, much to the consternation of the rustling, straight-shooting parson. Rustling? Shooting? Jules inquired. Preachers steal cattle, too? The horseman grabbed for his cigarette and he laughed. Now, you got the wind wrong. The parson ain't a rustler. He's a rustler. Works hard scratching souls together for kingdom come. He wouldn't chaw slow elk starving. But he's bit off a tough chunk saving souls up there. There's liquor enough running the streets of Gordon to lay everything except Nebraska dust. The settler said it might be worth going up. Yeah, but better not tie your Sunday school money in your shirt tail. What do you mean? The horsebacker slapped his worn chaps. You lose it when they steals your shirt, you greenhorn. Suddenly the man leaned forward, his arms crossed on the saddle horn. But you Grangers will never have no money. You don't never rain this damn country. You'll stop lead or stretch rope. You keep shooting cattle. The two newcomers dropped back. Jules stood his ground, pushed his cap away from eyes hard as the file in his hands. Deliberately, he spit on the ground at the man's stirrup. You don't run me off. I see the cattle business in hell first. Ranch had caressed the warm butt of his coat. Fighting words, old man, he said, but it'll be a different tune. And you better roll up this snag fence you got strung around here. It won't be healthy for you. With that, he pinched the fire from his cigarette butt and flipped it into the breaking and sank his spurs. Mustang dropped into a short, easy lope, stringing a trail of dust across the flats. Jules had no heart for more weed chomping. After supper, several neighbors came across the curled dead grass to sit on the piles of dirt. They talked, looked at the newcomer's pamphlet on railroad land sales. The new Canaan, one called the Panhandle. Big Andrew, who could have laid twice as much sod in a day as any other in the flats, lifted his buffalo shoals a little, pulled his pipe stem from his red beard. Canaan. Promised land, they call it. He looked off over Jules' corn, dark, rattling a little in the wind of dusk. Yeah, a panhandle to the promised land. I ain't seen much milk and honey, a truck driver from Missouri complained. Jules stirred from his preoccupation. It will come, he said. It will come.
O God of earth and altar, bow down and hear our cry. The walls of golden tomb, the swords of scorn divide. Take not thy thunder from us, but take away our pride.
The solo voice you heard in O God of Earth and Altar belonged to John Carter Cole of Lincoln. One of the most beloved and inspiring passages of Scripture is the 5th chapter of the book of Matthew, the Sermon on the Mount. Harry Simeon has taken the words of that great passage and composed a moving anthem. And we hear it now featuring Joe Feeney. Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatitudes.
The poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. They shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven. Ye are the salt of the earth. Ye are the light of the world. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in
You are watching An Hour of Gladness, presented by the Nebraska State Council of Churches in cooperation with the Nebraska Centennial Commission, coming to you from the Fine Arts Building of Nebraska Wesleyan University in Lincoln, with an all-Nebraska orchestra and chorus under the direction of Harry Simeon, guest soloist Joe Feeney, and Henry Fonda as host. A gift from the churches of Nebraska to the people of Nebraska on the occasion of its centennial.
High
Hardship, disappointment, uncertainty, sudden and untimely death, those are commonplace along the frontier, and it took a certain kind of individual to endure all that, to homestead and build a new life in a new territory. Yet there were many men and women who did just that, who were hardy and tough and determined, and who were so because they possessed the conviction expressed in this next hymn. Miss Beverly George of Lincoln is the soloist. Gallon of raw alcohol, 10 gallons of river water, a plug of tobacco, and maybe a little molasses. No wonder they called it firewater. And without it, there'd been very little fur trading along the Missouri River, and largely because of firewater and the first settlers using it to exploit the Indians, the first missionaries came to the territory, and so began the story of Nebraska's religious heritage. The story began here, where the Platte River joins the Missouri, where the government had an Indian agency, and where Peter Sarpy operated the only fur trading post in the region, Bellevue. The trading post had served Fort Atkinson to the north until it closed, and in the 1830s was serving the trappers and Indians along the Missouri, the Otoe, the Pawnee, the Omaha. In 1833, the first missionaries arrived at the post, and 7 days later, they opened a school. Moses Merrill and his wife and 2 assistants, they were Baptists, built a mission post 8 miles to the west in a clump of cottonwoods on the south bank of the Platte near an Otoe village. This chimney, built by the Merrills, marks the site of the first Indian mission in what was to become Nebraska. Next year, 1834, Reverend Samuel Alice here and the Reverend John Dunbar, both Presbyterians, arrived at the Sarpy post, intent on establishing a mission among the Pawnees. Fortune was on their side. They arrived with buffalo herds, and sensing good medicine, the Pawnee took them in. But their mission was moved back to Bellevue in 1846 because of setbacks, mostly from the Sioux. In the following months, the Presbyterians built this mission house in Bellevue, and Dunbar and Alice were succeeded by the Reverend and Mrs. Edward McKinney. They opened a school here and organized a Presbyterian church in 1850. In 1856, under the leadership of the Reverend William Hamilton, a church building was erected, and it still stands in Bellevue today, the oldest church building in Nebraska. And its place in Nebraska history is clearly marked on this monument. Meanwhile, Nebraska had become a territory, May 30th, 1854, and the first territorial governor was appointed, Francis Burt of South Carolina. But his long and difficult journey to the frontier left him in ill health, and he no sooner arrived than he was confined to bed. Hamilton cared for him in the mission house, but 2 days after taking his oath of office here, Territorial Governor Burt died. To the south, meantime, in Nebraska City, the Methodists sent in their first ministerial appointee, the Reverend W.D. Gage, who arrived shortly after territorial enactment in 1854. Gage organized the first Methodist church in the territory in October of that year and built the first church building shortly thereafter, and Gage was to serve as chaplain of the territorial legislature. In the same year, 2 men of the Disciples of Christ denomination, known as the Christian Church, organized the village of Brownville. Richard Brown and Joel Wood, the latter a minister, and in 1855, they organized their first church there. The Lutherans arrived, too, building their first church at Dakota City in 1861. Although what was to become Coots Memorial in Omaha had been organized earlier, the Dakota Church still stands, as does St. John Lutheran Church near Auburn. It was built of stone in 1866 by a German immigrant to last 100 years, and it did. The territorial capital in Omaha had the only room large enough for public gatherings, and it became the meeting place for several infant churches in Omaha. Cooperating in the use of the capital were Congregationalists, Methodists, Baptists, and Episcopalians. Cooperation developed also in the establishment of Sunday schools in frontier communities, many of which preceded organized churches, and in 1867, the first Sunday school convention was held in Beatrice. It led to the formation of a statewide organization which has since become the State Council of Churches. By 1860, 63 churches had been organized in the new territory, the largest number, 32, by the Methodists. Their circuit riders and revivals seemed best suited to the religious needs of the frontier. But the frontier churchmen also built schools, colleges, and hospitals. The Congregationalist Thomas Doane, a Burlington Railroad executive, helped found an academy near Crete in 1872. It became Doane College. And satellite academies were established in the next 15 years at Neely, Franklin, Weeping Water, and Chadron. The Presbyterians incorporated a college at Hastings in 1882, opened Bellevue College in 1883, and started a seminary in 1891. In the same period, Midland College at Fremont was opened by the Lutherans, and they added Dana College at Blair and Concordia College at Seward. The Methodists consolidated two of their early colleges, moved them to the University Place near Lincoln in 1886, and established Nebraska Wesleyan. Earlier, they had started a college at Peru, and there were many others. Even the University of Nebraska, which began classes in 1871, was the product of the educational interest of churchmen. Today, there are 21 four-year colleges and universities in Nebraska, only 5 of which are state-supported. 11 are church-supported or affiliated, and most of these 11 have been preparing teachers in professional leadership for the state since the early days of its existence. In addition, many of the hospitals and orphanages and senior citizens' homes were established by the churches, particularly the Lutherans and Methodists. 2 of the earliest hospitals were in Omaha, Lutheran Emmanuel in 1886 and Methodist in 1891. Today, of the 76 privately operated licensed hospitals in Nebraska, 41 are church-affiliated. Such is the religious heritage of Nebraska, to say nothing of the strength and dedication of her people, the saints since departed, whose courage and determination and hope built the state. If her people today employ that legacy, they can anticipate the next 100 years with confidence and hope. For that is our religious heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present your governor, the Honorable Norbert Tiemann.
Fonda, we're pleased and proud to have you with us tonight to help us commemorate our 100th centennial anniversary celebration. You know, a long time ago, I looked at a movie, and it was one of the finest motion pictures that I had ever seen. I think most of us here tonight had seen. This was called The Grapes of Wrath, in which a young man by the name of Henry Fonda starred so well. This was a story of the Joad family leaving Oklahoma and going to the so-called Promised Land, which didn't exist. This was out of the Dust Bowl, and Nebraska was part of that Dust Bowl. Now, there's an antithesis to this story, and this is one that would also make an excellent motion picture. And this is the story of the people who stayed in the Dust Bowl. And we're looking at many here tonight, and many who are viewing this event are also part of this hardy strain of people who decide to stay in Nebraska, put their roots down, raise their family here. And we honor these people in our centennial celebration. And on behalf of these gallant people, Mr. Fonda, it's my pleasure, and as governor of this state, to present to you the notable Nebraskan award to Mr. Henry Fonda, a real Cornhusker. As governor of the state of Nebraska, I now want to thank the member churches of the Nebraska Council of Churches, which made possible this fine display of our native talents. But more than that, and speaking for the people of the state of Nebraska, I want to say thank you for 100 years and more. The service to this state, for the hospitals and the schools, and we are met in one of them now, for the sense of purpose and wisdom and love and native talent and music that we see here tonight, for your priceless heritage. We are truly grateful to the churches of Nebraska. And now it is my privilege to introduce the centennial hymn as selected by the Nebraska Council of Churches and arranged for this program by Harry Simeon and featuring Joe Feeney. Come, labor on.
Stand idle on the harvest clay, while all around him waves the golden grain, and to its servant does the Master say, go work today. Come, labor on.
This has been an hour of gladness, a gift of religious fine arts from the churches of Nebraska to the people of Nebraska on the occasion of the state centennial. Presented by the Nebraska Council of Churches, this program originated from the Fine Arts Auditorium of Nebraska Wesleyan University in Lincoln. This is Nancy Griffin saying thank you and good night.